Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. So I've been doing a lot of videos on the best fits for the most, newly minted free agents, and for each team, and some trade package best fits and predictions and stuff like that. Look in the description down below; you'll see all of them, as well as all the videos on my 30 on 30, my MLB free agent predictions, contract predictions for 2021, all that stuff, and a bunch of other things down below. So if you haven't watched them yet, take a look. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit that notification so you don't miss any more videos. Because if you really want good baseball content, then this channel is definitely for you. And today I want to talk about the 5 best fits in free agency for George Springer. He was now a newly minted free agent. He played with the Astros for almost the last decade. He was one of their best players. He's an absolute clutch player in the playoffs. He is 31 years old. He's a center fielder. And it looks as if he's going to be moving on from the Astros. I just have a feeling like him and Carlos Correa next year are both probably going to move on from the Astros. And I think it'll be a good thing for them. Carlos Correa will probably be dealt somewhere in a trade, in my opinion, so they could at least extract some prospects back for him. He's a straight-up free agent, so they're just going to get whatever draft pick, because he got a qualifying offer that was turned down. So they'll get some second or third round pick, and that's it. But he's one of the top 5 free agents available this offseason for the 2021 baseball season, and I want to go over the top 5 fits. So number 5, I'm going to go from 5 to 1, by the way. Number 5, to me, Toronto Blue Jays. They're actually a good fit in my eyes for quite a few people. Particularly because they have, a need at quite a few places. I mean, they got a young, dynamic, lineup especially with Guerrero and Biggio and who else they have? Bichette Jr. and there's a couple other young players, but they're mostly, predominantly in the infield, even though they could still have some, maneuverability and stuff like that. But I see a need for an outfielder, particularly center field, and even a DH. I would watch the next video after this, because I'm going to talk about my 5 best fits for Kyle Schwarber, who's a newly minted free agent, surprising free agent. But this video is going to tie in with that one too. So I think the Toronto Blue Jays are a good fit for George Springer. And I'm looking at my baseball book and just to make sure. Yeah, and what's crazy about it, they have a connection there. The former bench coach from the Houston Astros from 2015 to 2018 is now the hitting coach from the Toronto Blue Jays. So there is a connection, and he has somebody there that's kind of helped him really develop into the type of hitter that he is. So they do pop out as a realistic and a viable possibility, and they don't have a lot of payroll tied up. They really don't. A lot of these young stud players are all under control for several more years. So they're not really having to worry. So now's the time to add. They have need for pitching, so they have to bring in another starter. That's Rio was a gold mine for them last year. They still have a need to bring in another starter, maybe 2, and maybe some relief help as well. But Springer to me and the Blue Jays seem like a great fit for George Springer. Add a veteran, a clutch veteran to that lineup who, that team is kind of on the rise. They're trying to compete in the American League East and just in the American League overall. Yes, they have, the Yankees and the Rays to deal with every year. And, Boston Red Sox kind of reshuffling. So I look out for them either way. And Baltimore is still kind of rebuilding. So, but at the very least, they'll, a move like this would help get them closer to the Yankees and the Rays. So, and I hate saying it, but George Springer's been a Yankee killer over the years too. So that could, give them a boost in the American League East too. So he's my number 5. Number 4, this is kind of a dark horse team to me, and I don't know if anybody else sees them as a fit, but the Kansas City Royals. Whit Merrifield is actually probably going to be platooning in the right field now, but Alex Gordon is retired. Okay, there's a need to replace somebody in the outfield, whether it be left or center. Okay, they have some positional movability. They've got a lot of young pitchers. Quite a few young players as well. But Dayton Moore, I think that's his name. Their GM the other day said and they've already brought in Mike Minor, and they brought in Michael Taylor, another outfielder. So they're showing a willingness to spend. And he said they want to be more competitive this year. And who better to put them in a position to do that than somebody like George Springer? He would really, really take that team up a notch. He really would, And I don't think that'll be the last piece they bring in either. They have to address some other areas, but they're like a year or two behind the Milwaukee Brewers with like the young pitching. They've got a couple coming off injury, the young starters and bullpen, so they've got that stuff lined up. But if you could put some defensive prowess up the middle, whether it be shortstop, center field, second, you put him in center field, you've got some additional firepower on the defensive side, which helps pitchers. And helps the team, obviously. And you're bringing in a clutch hitter who's been really, really, really good over the past couple of years. So he's one of the top 3 free agents available this offseason. 3 or 5. I think 3 probably. So the Kansas City Royals would be a good fit too. You plug him in there in that lineup with Soler and Merrifield. Just those 3 alone, that's a pretty fearsome 3. Okay, Merrifield's a good contact hitter, but again, you need somebody to replace Alex Gordon, who's beloved in Kansas City, and I think he'd be a good fit there. That's number 4. Number 3, going back to the Astros. I mean, they're a logical fit too, but like I said, I think there are some players, because of what happened a couple years ago, that it seems to me they want to kind of move on and get a change of scenery and just start fresh in a new place. And I think Springer and Correa are 2 of those. And I could see, even though if he goes back to the Astros, he'd probably still be clutch. He'd still be good. They've Altuve. They've got Bregman. They have a lot of young, dynamic and just good veteran players. Even though they're losing Michael Brantley to free agency, they may bring him back too. But they're my number 3 pick, and they seem to be a little bit of a better fit than the Royals and the Blue Jays. But I think the Blue Jays are kind of creeping up. But I think the Blue Jays need some help on the left-handed side in terms of hitting. So that's why I have the Astros above the Royals and the Blue Jays. So they're number 3. Number 2, my opinion, Boston Red Sox. I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. was their top center fielder the last couple of years, several years, and he's a free agent now. He's very likely going to be moving on somewhere else. And I think, and they're kind of reshuffling. They have Chris Sale coming back from Tommy John, and they had a rough year. But they'll do what they need to do to bring in some players to make themselves competitive again. And you bring in a Springer to replace Bradley, that's a significant upgrade. Then you pair him up with J.D. Martinez, that's a pretty nasty 1-2 punch there in the lineup, as well as some other guys as well, young players. I mean, and Devers and some of these other guys. I think he'd be a good fit. And eventually, if he's playing center field doesn't become an option, he can become the DH after J.D. Martinez contract is up, I think, in 2 years because he opted back in. So just a thought there, too. There is some flexibility with him, but he's a clutch player. Boston likes clutch players. And he'd be an upgrade over Jackie Bradley Jr. I like Jackie Bradley, but he'd be an upgrade there. And I could see them being a very, very, very viable option. So that's number 2 for me. And number 1, I think, is the most obvious fit for me in free agency. It's the New York Mets. They have a clear need for a starting center fielder. And, I mean, they have some pitching strength. And they have some young dynamic hitters already, Conforto and Alonso, if he turns it around a little bit. And you add Springer to that lineup, he will take that lineup to another level. And I think if they do bring in a George Springer, they'll probably – I don't think they're going to be done. I think they're going to make several moves this offseason. But I think he could probably be the big one. Or 1A if they bring in Trevor Bauer, too. But I see them bringing in more starters for balance on the back end, 3 or 4s and things like that. Chris Archer or Taijuan Walker or somebody like that. Or trading for a Lance Lynn. It's something. I think their big moves are going to be on the offensive side where they kind of need it. And I think Springer is a perfect fit there. He would complement that lineup extremely well. Improve defense in the outfield. And it gives them a little bit more versatility too. Plus, if the National League decides to adopt the DH again, they decide to adopt the DH permanently, which I know they're talking about, and I think that's going to be discussed in the next collective bargaining agreement. Players like him become a logical fit down the line to move into DH when you have a younger prospect you want to put in the outfield, something like that, and especially if he's still hitting. But I think he's a prime candidate for a 4 or 5 year deal. He's going to be one of the few guys this offseason to get it, in my opinion. He'll make probably $100 million plus or whatever it is, but I think it would be a smart move for the Mets to bring him in. Yes, he's 31. not 26 like Manny Machado or Bryce Harper were when they got their money, but he's still, at the top of his game. And the skill set that he brings from Houston, and he's got playoff pedigree, he's got championship experience. He brings that also to a team that really hasn't had an opportunity to enjoy it, aside from their World Series with Kansas City, which I think was 2015. Aside from that, it's been, they've had a little bit of a rough go. So, but I also think he'll replace some of the offense lost by Robinson Cano. And I think he's a better fit for the lineup than DJ LeMahieu anyway. I know people are talking about DJ and some other people, but George Springer to me is a perfect fit on the Mets. And the Mets to me are a perfect fit for George Springer. So I hope it happens. He'll make the team a hell of a lot better. And, I think it'd be a good move. And again, I think it's going to be one of the several moves that Mr. Cohen makes for the Mets this year. So those are my top 5 fits for George Springer. Next video, I'm going to talk about my top 5 fits for Kyle Schwarber, newly minted free agent. So be on the lookout for that one. You're not going to want to miss it. So hit that subscribe button and notification next to it. My regulars, you're the best. Thank you for sticking with me since day one. And see you over there in Chicago or soon to be somewhere else. Talk to you then.